Hi, my name is Juan Carlos, and I want to talk about the importance of philosophy in our education and why we should still study philosophy in our community. But first, let me tell you about my personal experience with philosophy. At first, I thought that philosophy was useless, because I only thought that philosophy was only for the questions of God, the universe, and our existence. And I thought, why someone would like to study that? But after some months of studying philosophy, I found out that philosophy wasn't only for these topics, but also was in our daily life. To question things that happened to you, and to think about things that you want to do. For example, if you work in a company and they ask you to create a new project, and you ask yourself, how will this project affect the community? How are you going to achieve it? Is there an easier way to do it than are you doing right now? If this project is going to work, and if it doesn't work, what are you going to do? These questions are proof that you're using philosophy, that philosophy is in our daily life. But seeing the benefits of philosophy is hard at first because of that mentality that I told you about. But if you keep studying philosophy, your perspective will change. Your world will change. The way you see your surroundings. I know someone still thinking that philosophy is still boring, and that the only thinking about it is boring. But let me tell you something. Philosophy can be fun sometimes, but also boring. Think of it as a double-edged sword. Philosophy can show you a fun time, with questions that will trigger your senses of wonder. For example, one day, let me tell you about no script, is what I remember. One day in my fifth semester, in my philosophy class, we were supposed to do a exam. We were preparing. I was nervous because I didn't understand philosophy. And a teacher came to our classroom and said, "Wait here for 10 minutes, I will be right back." So I waited. No, we all waited. After 10 minutes, the teacher came with a hamburger. And I was surprised because a hamburger in our classroom? What about the exam? Then he grabbed a chair, no, sorry, a table, put it in the middle of our classroom, put a hamburger there, and told us, "Give me the story of the hamburger." I was surprised because, what? A hamburger, a story, is only to be consumed. But that hit me. Philosophy, the origins. For example, I don't remember the philosopher, but there was someone questioning the prime elements. Someone thought was water. And I thought, what made that hamburger? The workers, the cow, how the meat get to the hamburger, how many cows or how many meat or pounds of meat were used to create this hamburger. And that got me thinking. I know it's not like a philosophical question is God a boy or a girl? I know that. But a way that I see philosophy is to think, to question things, to think about things like, I don't know, your future, what are you going to do? And if you do that, what will be the consequences? To make your brain think, that's what I think is it. What I think is it. I think that was the objective of our teacher in the fifth semester, to make us think for ourselves, to not follow the rules of someone, but our own, to think about things. I don't know if you're getting it, but that's what I got from that exercise. I remember I did an essay of how many cows are killed per year to make hamburgers or meat products, but formed only from a single hamburger. But not only was the hamburger experience that marked my life, but also also was the sixth semester that opened my mind because the fifth semester was only to like introduction to philosophy, but in the sixth semester I started to understand philosophy. In this semester I found out that philosophy is handy for my life. With, with philosophy I could ask questions about anything that I'm doing, to analyze everything with questions and answer the questions that I made. This made my work easier. Also, I found philosophy entertaining, hard at first to understand, but let's say I think it was until Plato, Plato, that I started to like philosophy because it made me think, like of the dreamed things, like another world where the things are perfect. That was surprising, and to see all the theories and to think like, I like this theory, I agree with that part. Why I don't agree with the other part of the theory, and to combining the theories, to create your own theory, to see the world different, not only to believe in what you're thinking, to question everything, to make you think. That's what philosophy gave me. But as I told you, philosophy is a double-edged sword. I just told you the fun part, the one edge of the sword. Let me talk to you about the second edge of the sword. The bad part of philosophy is that sometimes it's confusing. You might not understand something that a philosopher proposes, but that is the only letdown. When you start to understand all the points of view of philosophy, you will start to get easier and easier to understand. Yeah, some philosophers are hard to understand. For example, Nietzsche. I didn't understand the quote, "God is dead." I didn't understand it, but that didn't let me down. I want to study more, to see the perspective of more philosophers, to get in their mind, to see what what they saw. Also, it makes you think how I see it. At first, this is a year after, no, before I enter my, a year before I entered the philosophy class. I saw the world as black and white. What things were wrong, what things were right. But with philosophy, it opened my mind. It gave me different perspective. My world, with philosophy, my world wasn't only white and black. It had different colors, if you can put it. I don't know. It made me think. In conclusion, I want to tell you to give philosophy a chance. It might sound boring at first, but if you give it time to understand philosophy, to start using philosophy in practice, not only studying to know what they propose, but using philosophy in your own way. I know that some teachers want to tell you that Nietzsche thought that, didn't to learn that and that. I know that, and that's very important. But I also think that you need to put philosophy in practice. To use your surroundings, the era, to question everything, to think about yourself. Please give philosophy a chance, because if you go to the world of philosophy and you start to understand it, I know some things you can understand, but if you read about it, philosophy will open new things. It will carry you under his wing, and I don't know, it will open your mind. I think that's a nice opportunity that you must not miss, because if you miss it, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Oh, Sorry, I forgot because I was talking about personal. I forgot to tell you why it's important in our education. I think the philosophy makes us think, as I already told you. And we need people to think, not to only to do work, to think for ourselves, to see the world in different ways, to form their own perspective of the world. Because that's very important, because that's what makes us unique. Philosophy, I know you won't use it a lot, well, of questioning, but it's not as important as I see it as mathematics, biology, chemistry, and all those subjects. But philosophy develops your mind, the way of thinking, to think for yourself. Philosophy will bring you to a Okay, that was cheesy, but I wanted to do it. You should give this a philosophy a chance. You might like it. People still. I know it's still rough. People are rough with philosophy because they don't want to think, because they want to stay in a small box. But what philosophy does is break that box and open new ways of seeing the world. For example, I know I'm getting repetitive, but I want to make my point clear. Here is the person without philosophy. It's a cube. His surroundings are limited. Let's say inside this box, box is like God created all the things. You're doing this because God told you about it, because it's your destiny. But with philosophy, this box disappears. It opens or expands. It makes you think. Like the God problem. I don't know the exact words, but it was if God was good, why does evil still exist? Because if God is good, He's gonna save us. But if God is gonna save us, why evil still exists? Because that's killing us. That's making you think. To know, that's a good question. That's my opinion that of philosophy. It might be boring sometimes, but the majority, it's fun. The majority, a lot of times. I think philosophy should still be a subject in school to make us think, to make us see the perspective of the era of the philosophers, because not each philosopher have the same perspective, and to create our own perspective depending of which era we are, because our perspective will be different from the perspective of Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, Nietzsche, Kant, to make our own ideas, to question everything. That's why we should still study philosophy in our world. And that's why you need to study philosophy. It will open your world. Your perspectives will be open. Don't be afraid. It's not boring. Sometimes it's boring, but it's not boring all the time. You might like it. It might open your mind. It might give you more information. It will question everything. You will question everything. I will try to find the way. It will give you an objective to find the answer of your question. And that's something that is worth trying it. Thank you very much. I hope you try to study philosophy in the next year, in the 5th semester and 6th semester, and to study philosophy in the university. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thank you for listening. Bye.